Hi, everybody. We are the Non-Prophets. I'm your host, Jeff D. Today's co-host is Keryn Glasser.
Hi, guys.
And our producer, as usual, Russell Glasser.
Hello. Today's
opening music was See the Constellation by They Might Be Giants. We are live January 31, 2004. And today's show is going to be all about family values.
Yay.
At least until we run out of stories to talk about, but there's a lot.
How appropriate. Ginny's coming home this evening.
That would be Mrs. Glasser?
Yes, she has been gone for a month.
Does she go by Mrs. Glasser?
Yeah, she does. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah? Sometimes she sticks with a maiden name thing?
No.
Or her previous married name?
No, her previous married name was what she used before, and she's never using that again.
Okay. So if she's not going by Mrs. Glasser, what does she go by?
Jenny.
Oh, I see. I think pretty much everybody sometimes doesn't mention the last name.
Yeah.
Okay. Any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media, and we've all heard these damn things.
No, never.
Yes, you have. Are you going to just be fighting with me all show?
What slurs?
You're like Mr. Contrary today.
What slurs?
Go over there and fiddle with your dials. Huh?
I'm not slurring. What are you talking about? Slurs. I haven't been drinking. What are you talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, Keryn Glasser, fresh from a shot of what kind of rum was that?
Captain Morgan spiced rum.
Captain Morgan spiced rum.
Good.
And it's all gone, and she didn't give me any.
It wasn't that much.
Okay, so these slurs, defamation, and discrimination against atheists and other non-believers in the U.S. media, right? Write up what you heard, where you heard it, who said it, and email it to the National Atheist Ombuds at atheism.org. And then they'll tell the atheist groups in that area who will send out press releases complaining. The Heart of the Beholder film project still needs your support. Pre-production began on January 1, with shooting scheduled to begin in April. According to their website, they have received about $267,000 in the pledges that they were looking for out of the $300,000 target. So there's still a chance to get on the bandwagon, pledge some money to support the film, and potentially make a little cash in return. For information about this film and how you can get involved, visit www.beholder.com. Okay, and now news stories. Are you ready to begin, Keryn?
Not really.
Should I?
Sure. Well, yeah, okay, you go.
Do you want to jump right into the polygamy thing?
Oh, yeah, let's do the polygamy one.
We should build up to polygamy and start with,
I didn't really know that polygamy still exists in the world. I thought that was something you, read about in stories.
Which kinds of stories are these that we're talking about?
Biblical ones,
oh, okay.
Of course.
Those,
but there's, they gave a number in this story of 30,000 families across the United States, or just across the west half of the United States or something.
Which means at least 45,000, wait a minute, 30, 60, at least 90,000 adults.
Wow.
Because it's not polygamy unless you get 3.
They didn't exist anymore.
Is it still a polygamous marriage if, 2 women marry the same guy and then he dies? Is it still polygamy?
No, then it would be a lesbian marriage.
Polygamy?
That's a very interesting question. I wonder what that would have to do with all
a guy marries
Bush's
2 women and then one of the women dies. Is it still polygamy?
No.
It isn't?
Not anymore.
No. It was.
Because it's a union between a man and a woman. We should start with mine, because you're asking a whole bunch of questions.
I guess in the sense that...
Well, if a guy marries one woman and then she dies, he's not married.
Right. So I guess on that basis, the previous spouse doesn't count.
Yeah, but if the guy died leaving 2 wives who are still married, that would be interesting.
That would I think when we get to my questions, my story is about Bush and his same-sex laws.
Well, I want to start there. I don't want to start with polygamy.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll have to
immediately there's all these complicated questions.
All right.
Let's sort of set the stage.
Well, apparently, and by the way, guys, since our last show, there was a new State of the Union address from our dear, dear beloved president.
Yeah, we know.
Yes, Keryn and I got together and threw popcorn.
How is our union?
Don't get me started.
Is it still a union if we became a union and then one of us died?
Oh, boy.
What?
I don't know.
Anyway, so among the many things that we threw popcorn at when Bush said them in his State of the Union address speech on Tuesday, President George Bush suggested that he would support a constitutional amendment to outlaw same-sex marriages.
How did that go, by the way? The whole gathering here to throw popcorn at the president.
It was just us.
It was just the two
Nobody
of
else
us.
showed?
We had a great time. We threw a lot of
Yes.
popcorn.
Okay. Well, you probably had extra popcorn.
Well, no, we ran out, so we went and we scooped it up off the floor and threw it
there
some
were
more.
many bags that did not get popped, but we did rethrow much popcorn.
We threw
You threw used popcorn at the president?
It's even better that way.
It was popcorn, like, off the floor. Good grief. Was it plain popcorn or some kind of caramel-coated thing?
We had both, because, of course, I'm a vegan and he eats butter, so, we had to have both. No, we didn't have any caramel popcorn, but...
Good, because you wouldn't want to waste popcorn on that guy.
Caramel popcorn is way too good
we'd
for
have
Bush.
to eat
You know those drums, big, like, drum bins of popcorn that you get in the holidays that have a divider in there, and there's the plain and the cheesy and the caramel?
The caramel, yes.
I met the guy who says that in his household, the caramel corn goes last.
Really?
I didn't even think that was possible.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't like the caramel corn. So in his household, the caramel corn is like all still there when they finish the other two
Infidel.
Yes, we need a jihad against him, don't we? No? Okay.
Anyway.
No, we do.
So,
Yeah?
back to Bush. Let's see. In 1996, they passed a Defense of Marriage Act, and he praised that. He thought that was really good. By the way, I'd just like to mention that I thought it was really funny that whenever Bush was talking, the guy who was like controlling the camera, you could just hear him talking in his head going, quick, find the person he's talking about. So like there was a scene where they were talking about liberals, and they're like, quick, find someone that says that looks liberal.
flashed on Ted Kennedy real quick, yeah.
They were talking about little children. Quick, find the cutest little girl in the audience. So then he started talking about steroids, and he started talking about how we should
and
really
did they find Schwarzenegger out in the audience?
They didn't find Schwarzenegger, but it was really obvious that they quick flashed to someone that looked like he was on steroids. So that was funny. Anyway, I just thought that was amusing. Side note, okay, so Bush has reaffirmed the Act's definition of marriage as a union between a man and a woman.
And who did they flash on then?
Quick, find a man and a woman.
I don't remember him talking about this in the State of the
Or
Union
two
address,
gay
but
people.
maybe I was
Put
in the
a big red
bathroom
circle
during
over them.
Did he? What? He did talk about it. He did talk about it.
Well, apparently, because it says right here in the news
way more
article that
time
he did.
talking about gay marriage than practically anything else.
Oh, my
That was
gosh.
like his major speech theme.
Don't even get me started on his budget. Okay, because that doesn't really directly have anything to do with atheist issues. But.
Right, so, yeah.
So, let's see. He said my printer version seems to have cut off the end of a lot of words.
Neither does gay marriage directly. It indirectly has to do with atheism.
It does, because
because we know what the motivation is, right?
The motivation is because
but if the motivation was what they try to say it is, if the motivation was really what they try to say it is, which is, it's for the sake of our children and for the stability of our society, right, with no reference to any God,
then who they should be banning and
then it wouldn't be an atheist issue. But we know.
No, but if that were true, and they said, okay, well, if gayness corrupts people, right? So, for example, like you take these laws where they say that gay couples can't adopt or have children together.
Yeah.
So
did anybody bring in the story that there's state of Florida has passed a ban on adoption by gay couples, and that was upheld by their state's, I think it was the state Supreme Court of Florida.
No,
some court in Florida upheld their law. And what they said was, in the story, was that the state has a valid interest in not just finding families for orphans, but finding optimal families for orphans. But the thing is, that's never been the issue. It's not like, my gosh, there's so many people trying to adopt all of the children that the state is taking care of, right? And every once in a while, some gay couple gets through and gets hold of one.
Mm-hmm.
No,
you know what they do in those cases?
But that's never been the issue. The issue is, can we possibly find enough homes for all these children that need them, right? It's never been a case of, we have too many, and so we better make some rules to exclude the ones that are not optimal enough.
People do wait for a long time for their turn to adopt kids, but
They do?
But I mean, the people adopting.
How does that work then?
The people adopting are very strict about. I mean, tend to be very picky about what kind of kids they adopt. I mean, troublesome children are hard to get rid of.
Right.
Racial minorities are hard to get adopted.
No, but here's what I find ironic about that situation is when a gay couple has a child. What I've most often heard is that the trials that come up are that they take the child away from the gay couple and give the child to the parents of the gay couple.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny because if the issue is corruption,
those parents,
right? Parents are the ones that raised the gay
in the first place. Interesting.
Ooh.
I'm sorry. I know we're jumping in and digressing a lot on your stories.
It's okay. We don't have to.
But I think this is a huge issue, and we're trying to do a whole show about it, and so let's not be in a hurry.
I'm not stuck to news. This is a show where we're talking about issues.
Yeah.
Anyway,
why don't you go on now?
Okay, so Bush also reaffirmed the Act's definition of marriage as a union between a man and a woman, blah blah blah, and said if. I don't know what that says because it cut off the end of the words. If someone continues to rule, if activist judges, quote unquote, I'm using the little things that I'm on the radio, so I don't know why I'm doing that, but continue to rule in favor of same-sex marriages and domestic unions, he would support a constitutional amendment to ban them.
That's ridiculous.
Is he banning the?
If judges are ruling in favor of it, it's because there's nothing that stops it, right? It's because there's nothing currently in the law that stops it.
Right. So he's saying there should be.
Okay.
Of course.
Go on.
That's the whole problem. These weird activist judges.
Do we have... Can I...
Running amok.
I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Thanks,
hi to everybody in the chat room.
for being around to listen to our show live.
Yeah, me too. Hi.
Anybody gay in the chat room over there with an opinion? We'd really like to hear from you. I mean, because it's all well and good for a bunch of, white, straight people to sit around the table and talk about your issues, but, it's really more important to know what the people actually affected by this nonsense think.
Let's see. Okay, so currently the U.S. Congress is debating an amendment that would prohibit the federal government from... this copy that I printed out really stinks. Same-sex marriages, according to the article in Washington Times, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so Bush's speech has been causing a big stir, big debate. The Chickara Martin, the director...
The big debate is the, liberal people saying he's an idiot and the conservative people saying, no, he isn't. That's the big debate.
Let's see.
I think the conservative position is, no, he's an idiot, but he's an honest idiot.
Oh, my God.
Go on.
Which, of course, we would contest also.
So Chickara Martin is the director of LGBT, which means lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, educational, and support services. Martin said an amendment would violate one of the core tenets of our Constitution, which is separation of church and state, and it would create constitutional discrimination.
Yeah.
College Republicans Chairman Jarrett White said his group is 100% behind the idea that marriage is something between a man and a woman.
It'd be a union.
Union, well, it starts with a B, so I don't know what that means. Binding between a man and a woman. And the group...
This is why you have to click on the printer-friendly link.
I did. This is the printer-friendly link.
It is, huh?
The other one would have had all of that stuff here that would have...
I copy and paste into WordPad.
Me too.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway. And this Republican guy says that, whose name is White, by the way.
Well.
So that marriage is a sacred union, and the issues of same-sex marriage should be a federal issue and not left up to the states. So currently, all of these marriage acts are regulated by the states, but he's saying that we should make it federal.
I agree that whatever the decision is, it ought to be national rather than state by state. It would be ridiculous to be married in one state, drive across the border, and suddenly you're not married again.
No. The way it stands currently is that you can get married, like, in Virginia or Hawaii, and then all the other states have to recognize that. You just can't get married in the other states. Like, the other states make it illegal, but they still have to recognize that you have been legally married. Right. So now they're saying, well,
that would suck if, like, every time you took a vacation out of state and came back, you're still not married. So you leave the state, you stop being married, and you come back and you have to get married again.
She's saying
No.
She's saying, as it stands, every state has to recognize was it just Vermont?
What? I haven't kept up with it lately. It was like Oregon, Vermont, and Hawaii, but they kept going back and forth between allowing it, not allowing it, allowing it, not allowing it.
But whatever it is, I mean, there ought to be the same rule throughout the country.
Yeah, right. Which means that, well, whatever. Anyway.
Which means, well, whatever. We're here to talk about what it means.
I wasn't going to say anything interesting. I wasn't going to.
Oh.
So.
All right.
Just trust me when I say, well, whatever, and don't finish the thought. Let's see. Dan Bryant, a senior minister from the First Christian Church in Eugene, who has performed marriage ceremonies over the years, said he respects the president but sees the issue in terms of basic human rights. So this is a religious guy, guys, who says that people should be allowed to do whatever they want.
Apart from respecting the president, I'm all with him.
I don't support the president.
And the whole believing in God thing.
Oh, yeah, that thing, too. I don't support the
Maybe
president.
Maybe he's one of those ministers that
doesn't
believe
in I don't support the president's position, Brian said. I have no difficulty with the issue of same-sex marriage as an issue of, if it's an issue of a loving partnership and a supporting relationship that are loving and healthy. Very redundant. But he said it.
Well, can I jump in there?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking your permission.
He says he supports it as long as it's loving and supporting and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to determine whether a marriage is loving and supporting? I mean, we can't have a law that says it's got to be loving and supporting before we'll let you have a marriage either, because that would be worse.
Yeah. Well, they bring that up in the polygamy argument too.
To be tested by the government before they can get a license.
I
can see someone like Professor Umbridge sitting in on your marriage for a couple of weeks.
You've been reading that book too,
taking notes. I finished it.
This is Harry Potter book, what, 5?
Book 5, yes.
5?
Good book.
Don't tell me how that turns out.
Lots of great themes, though, about how respecting authority is not a good idea if the authority is actually evil.
Right. So, and I want to clarify, of course, the government, in fact, already tests people but when they get married. There's a blood test.
Uh-huh.
True.
So the idea that we should extend that to,
multiple choice test. Do you love your spouse? Yes.
Yeah, A, it would be exactly that lame, and B, it would be exactly that creepy. To have this little mind control,
and C, I don't think the Christian right would want to do that because their goal is to get people to be married to each other because it's unsinful if you're in a relationship and you're not married.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it is sinful. So I don't think they'd want to limit who can get married because that lowers the amount of people that are having unchristian relations with each other.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's none of the state's frickin' business why those people want to get married. To me, I think the government's interest stops at the point of, do those people, in fact, actually want to get married? I think shotgun weddings, the government should be against.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I agree.
Nobody should be forced. Excuse me. Nobody should be forced into that relationship.
And there's something to be said for the age of consent and coercion issues.
That follows automatically because our assumption is that children are not capable of making certain decisions in an informed way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that comes along.
Which is why Macaulay Culkin's marriage lasted about 2 years.
I didn't
Macaulay
even know
Culkin was married?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
2 years?
He was married to, I think he was 17 and she was 16.
Married to him for 2 years?
Some 16-year-old girl.
You?
I think he was 17 and she was 16, and both of their families agreed to the marriage.
Oh.
That's why they were allowed to do it. Because the families, if your family, the age of consent is that you have to be 18 to make your own decision. But if the family approves it, then it's okay.
Still legal? Can you?
Sure.
Can you have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old getting married? If the
I would
family
imagine
says
so.
it's okay.
I think so. Yeah.
I would not imagine that.
We don't know. The answer is we don't know. And if anybody on the message boards knows, please tell us. By the way, did we get any answer to my previous question?
There are no gay people. There are some bisexual people.
There are.
One is living in Canada. It said, thank no God I live in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, but no very serious opinions about that.
Okay,
as far as I could tell.
We'll try to do our best, We'll try to do our best to understand the issues affecting people in positions other than ours.
True.
Anyway,
you can email us if you are gay and listen to this show later.
That's true.
You can go to www.atheist-community.org/radio.htm and click the email link.
Excellent idea. Yeah, please. If anybody who was not in the chat room and you'd like to tell us what you think about these issues, we'd really like to know. In fact, frankly, let me open this up, right? I mean, so far we've only been, open up later when we get to the other subjects. But, yeah, if you're affected by these anti-gay marriage arguments, then we'd like to know.
Okay. One thing they bring up in this article is that they say that this would be the First Amendment that prohibits rights as opposed to gives them.
Yeah.
It says Garrett Epps, a constitutional law professor at the University School of Law, explained that the passage of any such amendment would be very unusual because no amendment currently exists that limits rights. He said a decision surrounding family law and marriage would have been more or less the law of the state. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. I guess I hadn't really realized that we shouldn't pass law. Well, I don't know. Anyway. I'm mumbling, so let's move on.
Whatever doesn't matter.
Oh, actually, whatever doesn't matter. Trust me when I say it doesn't matter. So anyway, no, there was another interesting discussion point here that George Bush quoted something. Where is it? Dominic Vetri is a law professor who teaches gay and lesbian rights at the law school. Pointed out that. He said he disapproved of the president's attempts to appease gay and lesbian population when Bush cuts it off.
There's a quote.
I'm looking for it. Something.
Maybe it's time to move on.
So he said some crazy thing, and this guy didn't like it.
No, it was some biblical quote about the distinguishing between private affairs and marriage or something. I don't know. We can move on. If I find it, we can go back to it.
Okay. Well, fascinating. So, I mean, we've been hearing for a long time that he's moving in this direction. He did the whole billions of dollars to promote marriage thing. Remember that?
Yes.
And then the religious right wasn't satisfied, so now he's coming back with this crap.
Right. BNM in chat points out another restriction. He says, don't INS actually test marriage to aliens to see if that's legitimate?
Aliens?
Yes. Well, no, it's the whole green card issue. Like if an American gets married to a foreign person, they have to go through that whole, like in the movie Green Card.
Not the whole green skin issue.
In the movie Green Card, they had to, say what kind of toothpaste the other spouse uses and what kind of deodorant they use.
Oh, to prove that in fact they actually had a relationship and they weren't.
Yeah, that you're not just getting married.
I didn't know that. That would make sense if they were doing that, and that I think would be a valid government concern.
Yes, it is.
So it'd probably just be the same test.
That is it.
They've already created it.
That is a determination of whether the people are citizens or not. I'm not sure.
No. Well, I don't know much about it except what I've seen in the movie Green Card with Annie McDowell and Gerard Depardieu. You know, I'm like, but it was to see whether or not they were actually having a relationship. He's sure got a big nose, doesn't he? And it's very phallic too. I didn't notice that. One of my friends did point it out to me.
From a cheese-eating surrender monkey?
God, I think it was like.
We love the French on this show.
Quite so.
I just want to say. We love the French.
Anybody who's any nation that's opposed to the war in general can't be all bad.
We have any French people in the chat room? Let us know. Maybe that guy in Canada.
I think we're going to be waiting on that one for
a
while.
I think it got cut off. I can't find that quote. It was really funny.
I don't know why it is that I don't know what the actual legal grounds for any of this is. I mean, if
he makes it a constitutional amendment, then by definition it has legal grounds, even if it doesn't have any now.
But it's all in keeping with this.
That's the whole point. The whole point of making a constitutional amendment. You take an unpopular position that you can't possibly hope to get through the courts, and you stick it in the Constitution, and then it can't possibly be unconstitutional.
Sure. No, I understand that. But it seems like there's more going on than just an attempt to erode the wall of separation between church and state here, because the wall of separation between church and state is there to keep the government from meddling in people's private thoughts about, cosmic, philosophical, deep, personal issues. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This whole marriage thing just seems very much like that. Here is this thing, it's a private issue between the people that want to become partners. And here again, the government is trying to erode the wall of separation between government and marriage. There is a difference. I'm not saying it's identical, but there's a similarity in the way that the whole concept that some things are private matters for individuals to decide is being attacked.
You're reading this verbatim, aren't you?
No. Am I? Is that your next story?
This is the polygamy case. They talk about all of this.
Well, I'm doing that in a minute.
I'm like, you're reading that. I'm reading along with you.
Let me try.
Smart guy that thinks the same thing I do.
That's what's trying to touch.
Let me try to play devil's advocate here.
There isn't one of those. Play somebody else's advocate. Advocate somebody that exists.
George Bush's advocate, who's close enough.
Okay.
Okay, so gay marriage is bad, at least in my opinion, as George Bush's advocate.
Who asked you?
And gay marriage doesn't, or marriage in general does in fact affect the government. Because it determines how people can pay their taxes.
No, actually, the government determines how married people can pay their taxes.
Yeah. Okay.
The marriage doesn't dictate to government on the tax issue. Government dictates what how you do the tax thing.
Well, but
if you're married,
if gay marriage was considered okay, then wouldn't you have to add special provisions to the IRS tax code saying things like check here if you are married, unless you are gay people married?
Only if the government decides that it's going to tell you what married means. If the government doesn't tell you what married means, then you could use the tax forms as they stand. You got two people filing jointly because they're married. Bang, it's done. What's the problem?
Right. Well, the problem is they'll see that as, we're giving gay married couples a tax rebate, so now we're using our taxes to encourage people to have gay marriages.
Well, I have long been of the opinion we should not be using our tax laws to encourage regular old marriage, right? What's the correct term? Heterosexual marriage. I don't think that's any of the government's frickin' concern either.
But
I'm totally against that.
as Bush's advocate,
no, I have a good friend. I have a good friend who actually made it into the local news because he wrote a letter complaining about how he and his wife actually pay more in taxes as a result of being married than they would separately.
Why?
Depends on your situation. In some situations, you wind up paying more.
Because it pushes you both into a higher tax bracket.
Yep.
Because you're making more jointly than
so
you
I
would
think that whole concept is ridiculous.
Okay, well, I don't want to play Bush's advocate anymore.
Good, because he's an idiot.
I know.
So he's coming out with all these things. He's going to make this and that illegal, and the thing is, even if they were able to ram through Congress a constitutional amendment that marriage can only be a man and a woman, then it's just going to get shot down as an unconstitutional thing, won't it? Doesn't the Supreme Court have any say?
If it's in the Constitution, then how can they say it's unconstitutional?
What I'm asking is, does the court have anything to say about constitutional amendments?
As far as I can tell, they only have the authority to interpret other laws in the light of the Constitution.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, somebody's mentioning prohibition in the chat room. They passed an amendment, and a future group decided to pass another amendment that overturned the first one.
Okay.
Which could happen in the future. But
didn't that amendment take away rights? I thought that
it certainly did.
The story you just read said that there had never been an amendment that took away rights before.
What was the one?
Yeah, there certainly has been prohibition.
Oh, that's a constitutional amendment?
Yeah, prohibition. The 18th Amendment said you can't own or sell alcohol anymore.
But we don't still do that.
Right, because there was another amendment, the 21st, that said the 18th Amendment is now void.
Well,
so there you go.
Well, it says no amendment currently exists.
There you go. That makes a difference.
The other thing, of course, that they say at the end of this article, which I find that whenever some underprivileged party is being threatened by whatever religious right groups, the last thing they say in this article is that the best they can hope for is that this is going to push the gay rights movement and the gay rights cause to accelerate their efforts to liberalize the world and campaign for their own lives.
Darn. You wouldn't want to be, accelerating the process of people standing up for their rights.
No, that would be bad.
Just like us trying to unite the Democrats to overthrow Bush.
There's another question for the chat room. Anybody out there have a problem with gay marriage?
That would
just
be
out of curiosity. Anybody? I mean, just.
You think they're going to speak up after the discussion we've just had?
It occurred to me there might be somebody with an argument that makes more sense than anything Shrub's come up with.
Who still listens to our show?
I don't think so. Show. Possible? Come on. And we listen to them if they did.
Yeah.
All right. Russell, have you got a story for us?
Yeah, on marriage.
We're talking about marriage now, yeah.
Okay, let's jump overseas to see how they're going to be handling a marriage in Iraq in the near future.
Interesting.
A decision by Iraq's American-backed governing council to hand control of marriage and divorce laws to religious authorities has sparked outrage among Iraqi women who fear clerics will revoke the rights that they enjoyed under the ousted regime. Under Directive 137, approved by the Council on December 29th in less than 15 minutes, Muslim and Christian clergy will have final say about issues involving marriage, divorce, and inheritance, matters that under Saddam Hussein were handled in civil court. The decision, which must be approved by a future Iraqi government to become law, means religious leaders would dictate such things as the number of wives a man may have, who gains custody of children in divorces, whether girls and women may inherit property, and how easily a man can get divorced. Iraqi officials were dumbfounded when asked where atheists would go for such decisions. Critics say the move nudges Iraq closer to a theocracy.
I want to know who asked them that. Because that's a great question.
Good question. Yes, it doesn't mention that. But, I mean, here we are, for the longest time, we've been worried about the long-term repercussions of ousting Saddam would be that there would be a theocracy moving in to take his place. And it turns out we don't need one, because our very own American officials working over there have decided to set up one for us.
Now, let's clarify. That is a government of Iraqis.
It's the American-backed governing council.
Right, American-backed. It's not actually us making the decision. Still, it's pretty, eyebrow-raising that we didn't step in. Those of us that back that did not step in and say, "Don't you think that's a little nuts?"
Yeah. Oh, here's a good part. Council spokesman Hamid Al-Kifai said that giving religious figures a say about family matters is what Iraqis want. We don't have Islamic fundamentalists in Iraq, he said. It is only right that people use the doctrine they believe in to sort out their family affairs and family problems.
I agree it is only fair for the individuals to work out how they want to sort out their problems. But they're not letting the individuals decide. They're saying the individuals have to sign up for a religion, and then the religion decides.
Right, which means if you got married in a civil court like Ginny and I did...
So if you can set up a church in Iraq that says, when you die, the church gets all your stuff.
Yes.
Then, when you died, the church would get all your stuff.
I don't know if it worked like that.
Sounded entirely clear from the description of
Is that about marriage?
Sure, it's the estate on the disposition of the estate.
Oh yes, whether girls or women may inherit property. It doesn't say which church. I mean, it just says It just says Muslim and Christian clergy, like maybe they're going to appoint some specific clergy.
What about Buddhists?
Fuck Buddhists. Are they Muslim or Christian? Don't think so.
Apparently not. Well, of course they're not. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's saying, that's empowering those religious organizations with decisions over people's lives, making the decisions of the religion binding on the people in the religions, rather than letting the people, in each case decide what they want their arrangement to be.
Just remember, when you make arguments against the war and conservatives ask you, oh yeah, well, do you think they would be better off if they were still under Saddam Hussein? Don't assume that they wouldn't be better off if they were still under Saddam Hussein. At least on certain
issues, sure.
On certain issues, yeah.
Now, remember the other thing, this whole claim from the Bush administration that the goal here was to set up a shining example of democracy in the Middle East.
Yes.
So that it would become such a wonderful place that all the other nations in the Middle East would want to have a democracy like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this tells us that whatever it is, however it is that Iraq develops now, whatever the government, the puppet government that we put in place does, that shows what Bush thinks constitutes a perfect democracy.
Remember,
in
Bush
a perfect democracy in his world, right? You are a member of a church, and all these personal issues that the church has an opinion about are automatically binding on you, legally binding on you, just because you're in that church.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember, I believe also in the recent State of the Union address, he declared that it is his intention to mostly get out of Iraq by the next election. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're saying maybe they just don't care anymore. Maybe this is happening because they don't care.
That's totally what I think.
They went in, they overthrew Saddam, they caught Saddam, they look like the good guys, now they're done.
Right. And there's yet another justification to go to Iraq being thrown on the trash pile, which was we're going there because we want to rescue them and build a better society for them.
What happened with that whole weapons of mass destruction thing anyway?
Oh, well.
Should we wait, we're still on marriage.
No,
it would be a great time to segue into that, but,
But I do want to mention that as far as weapons of mass destruction go, according to Bush, we have scored a major victory. Because we found, I gotta remember the words, we found evidence of weapons of mass destruction program-related activities.
Weapons of mass destruction program-related activities.
That's right.
Not the actual weapons of mass destruction programs.
Not the programs, no.
And certainly not any actual weapons of mass destruction. Just activities,
related to the programs.
That's like walking into a mechanic's shop and saying, you have chemicals here that could be used as dangerous weapons.
Evil chemicals, would you say?
Evil ones.
Evil biology
and
chemistry?
Later.
Oh, okay. We have some more stories that are not family related we'll get to in a bit. All right, so, yeah, I think that's incredibly dangerous and scary. But the thing is, that is much like the kind of attitude that people have in the United States that just isn't usually as clearly spelled out as that. That whatever the big religion is, gets to decide things about how we're going to live.
Yes, majority rule, as they say. Except I wonder what they'll think when the majority is Islam.
I don't know. All right.
I think the slanted thing about the question you asked, though, that you hear all the time, well, do you think they'd be better off under Saddam Hussein? I mean, if you ask that question, if you answer no, then they're assuming that you thought Saddam Hussein was a good guy. But,
no.
But that's just not the case. You're just saying that Saddam Hussein wasn't necessarily any worse than President Bush. They're both evil.
Saddam Hussein was a horrible person who did, in fact, kill many of his own citizens.
Yeah,
but the question becomes,
Bush isn't in a position to be able to do that yet.
Have we killed more of them per time period than Saddam did?
Yes. And throw all the lives of American servicemen lost over there onto that figure before you do the math.
Right, but even discounting the lives of the American servicemen, I mean, a lot more Iraqis have been killed over there, and, of course they were Iraqis, so they all deserve to die, right?
Yeah, and of course...
That's the kind of thing that people will take out of context and accuse you of being anti-Iraqi, just like that actor.
But that's okay, because the entire Middle East loves us now.
Oh, yes.
Of course they do. They worship the ground we walk on. We are their new religion.
They worship it so much they would like to have it cleared of all
anyway
stuff. So let's bring this back now to our own shores, but a place that is much like a foreign country, Utah, Salt Lake City. Attorney challenges Utah polygamy ban. It's from January 26th. When the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Texas law against sodomy last year, at least one justice foresaw the likes of Brian Barnard. Justice Antonin Scalia warned that the ruling would unleash a wave of challenges to state laws against, ready for the laundry list? Bigamy, same-sex marriage, adult incest, prostitution, masturbation, adultery, fornication, bestiality, and obscenity.
Back up a little bit.
Masturbation. Yeah, apparently Scalia thinks that that those oh-so-precious laws against masturbation in various states are going to be would be endangered by the ruling on gay sex.
Oh, shit.
And your wife's not coming back till tonight. Yeah, that one really raised some eyebrows for me, too. I don't know why on earth.
I don't need to be hearing this stuff from my brother.
Yeah, you heard it from me.
Yeah, all I said was, what?
That says enough. I think
in the same sense that we can, if we are thoughtful and careful enough, we can talk about gay rights issues when we're not gay, right? We could talk about masturbation issues even if, and we're not saying we don't, even if we didn't masturbate. It's possible. That's what we're trying to do here on the show.
Right.
Sure.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, I cannot imagine what on earth the government's concern is when it comes to masturbation.
That you're killing all those millions and millions and millions of lives.
That's true, but then, having wet dreams should also be illegal.
It is.
That's right.
It is? Okay.
Uh-huh. Yep. The Onan Patrol comes bursting into the window.
I swear I thought I heard a story about that a while ago. No, yeah, it was. It was one of those guys who thinks he's like the next coming, and he was giving instructions of how to not have wet dreams.
Sorry.
That's well.
On the subject of masturbation, is everybody aware of what the central Christian argument against masturbation is? It's the story of Onan. Everybody know the story of Onan from the Old Testament?
No, I don't.
Not in much detail.
Let me paraphrase this, and I may get a couple of details wrong, but this is the basic gist of it, right? Some guy dies, and he leaves a wife, but not an heir. But the deceased spouse's brother, Onan, is around, and God really has a personal interest in this family producing an heir. And so he tells Onan to go doink his deceased brother's wife.
Yeah.
And Onan has a problem with this. He personally has an objection. Doesn't say, she was a hag. He's, concerned about what it means to his brother's memory, that maybe he's gay. Does not say why. He personally doesn't want to do it. And so, when the moment arrives, he withdraws and spills his seed on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so God kills him.
But that's
the story.
Masturbation. A lot of
that is the story.
It's birth control.
That is the story that is at the core of Christian objection to masturbation.
Wow.
Wow.
And they say they don't interpret the Bible.
Christians.
Well, I mean it's interpreted broadly as God doesn't want you to waste your sperms. Right? Not that they even knew there were such things as sperms in those days. They just knew that, generally how it worked. Not having microscopes. But the thing is, I mean, that it's a perfectly reasonable thing for some guy to say, no, I think I'll not have sex with my deceased brother's wife. Surely that is a personal decision that would be, valid just in its own right. But no, God wanted him to do it, and so God killed him when he didn't. Anyway, so that's all the things that Scalia thought would suddenly be, permissible if we permitted gay sex. Sure enough, Brian Barnard, a civil rights attorney, has brought a lawsuit challenging Utah's ban on polygamy. And some legal experts say the case could have a fighting chance because of the Supreme Court's gay sex ruling. The federal lawsuit, filed January 12, involves a married couple, identified only as G. Lee Cook and D. Cook, and a woman, Jay Bronson, who wanted to enter into a plural marriage but were denied a marriage license by Salt Lake County clerks. Citing the High Court's decision last June in Lawrence v. Texas, the lawsuit claims this county violated the plaintiff's right to privacy with regard to intimate matters and trampled on their First Amendment right to religious freedom. Okay, now I have a little bit of an issue with this story because the decision in Lawrence v. Texas had nothing to do with religion, right? It was purely a privacy issue.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the reason I don't like this brought into the story is that it treats polygamy as a religious institution, which is silly. I mean, there's people that there could be groups of people that want to become partners that have nothing to do with any religion anywhere.
Right.
Just like,
well, they're not saying polygamy in general. They're only saying polygamy for the people that follow that religion.
I understand he's probably throwing this in because he's representing some Mormons, even though it doesn't say Mormons, right? We know it's Mormons.
Right. In fact, it specifically says that they're not disclosing this client's faith.
Right.
I think that's really
that's why he's throwing it into this case. But that just muddies the issue, right? It treats the idea of, multiple people becoming committed life partners as if it had to do with religion, which it doesn't. It may have to do with it in that case. That would be the reason why. But it's like, it's not like the gay guys in Texas that the cops burst in on and arrested were having gay sex because of their religion, right?
That's why they got arrested.
What? You're saying if it was because of their religion, it'd be okay?
Yeah.
Are you? I'm not familiar with that religion. Not that I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably some
saying.
Greek thing.
Yeah, that's true.
No offense to any Greeks listening. I mean, Greek a long time ago.
So anyway, there we go, right? There's going to be this challenge, and Utah Attorney General Mark Shurtleff filed a friend of the court brief in the Lawrence case, arguing that overturning the Texas law would open the door to challenges to Utah's polygamy ban. Shurtleff said he believes Barnard's case is headed for the Supreme Court and predicted the judges would uphold the polygamy ban. He said, "We have a long line of cases saying that the institute of marriage is the bedrock of society. Therefore, states have a compelling interest in regulating and controlling marriage." Do they? And am I just completely wrong here? Is marriage, in fact, not the bedrock of our society, but just a thing that we do, for personal reasons these days?
I would think so.
He claims it's the bedrock of society, and therefore...
Yeah, I mean, it depends on...
But the thing is...
It depends on who you're asking. I mean, I don't think it's... I think that it's
You're not married.
I'm not good.
I'm married, and I am extremely happy with my marriage.
Likewise.
And I don't think it's the bedrock of society.
That's what I mean. I'm not married because... Never mind.
Huh?
I'm not married because I'm not married because I'm an atheist or anything like that.
Right.
I would like to be married one day. I don't want to do it because it's the bedrock of our society or because I subscribe to this particular religion. I would just like to be married one day.
Yeah, you would want to find some guy who is actually worth marrying and then get married for that reason.
Exactly.
But what if you found 2 or 3 guys, right, that you wanted to get married to?
I'm having trouble enough finding one. I don't think that's going to be an issue so much.
You find one and they clone him. Do you think the government ought to be in the position of saying, no, I'm sorry, you have to pick. You got to pick one because we made a law that says you have to pick one. Do you think that's right?
No.
You don't? No, I don't think it's right.
No.
Okay.
No, the government should have nothing. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily.
No, I'm not suggesting that you would want to do that. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical, right? So, yeah, that's my opinion.
Well, yeah.
And again, another reason that it bothers me that Mormonism is at the center of this particular case is that the way that a lot of the fundamentalist Mormons approach polygamy in their state is creepy for a lot of other reasons, right? Underage girls, arranged marriages, abusive behavior, right? Things that, can just as easily be part of two-person marriage, but happen to be, by many reports, very common in that particular area and under those particular conditions. But I don't know that polygamy leads to that. I don't know that the two are interconnected.
No, I think maybe it's the other way around. I think some of these people believe, since polygamy and gay marriage are such rare concepts that so few people want to do, that if you actually do want to do them, it must be an issue of coercion. There's no reason you would want to get involved in a polygamous relationship unless you're being coerced into it.
Yeah, no, I can say for a fact that's not true. Okay. My wife and I would happily marry a third person if we found somebody that we thought it would be a good idea to have that kind of long-term commitment with. Happily. Why not? I mean, for us, marriage is not this bedrock of society. It's not some command from God. It's, gosh, we really go well together, and here is a way of formalizing this arrangement, and it's great. That's all there is to it. And I'd see that, so I see no more reason to limit it to 2 people than I see to limit it to people of opposite genders. Seems like completely irrelevant.
And then we get back to that question about what happens if a man marries 2 women and then the man dies.
Then what?
Well, then you've got a lesbian couple, and that just impinges on the whole gay relationship thing, and it just gets all screwy. You can't legalize one.
I do agree with this story that these issues go together, right? Uh-huh. I think, it seems obvious to me that if you're going to draw a line, the line is going to be arbitrary and stupid. And if you don't draw the line, then you have to include stuff like this, right? If you don't do it in the first pass, then somebody's going to come back and say, you allowed the gay marriage thing. So clearly it's not, we can't say that it's, because of, that marriage has to be this thing, this precise thing that got described in somebody's holy book. And then at that point, it's,
Well, when you come right down to it, the line you have to draw, which is not arbitrary, is anybody hurt by it?
Right.
But that,
which is why we don't support, underage people.
Right. But that's a separate issue, right? We don't support, it is already illegal to marry somebody who's 11, right? Yeah. It wouldn't be opening that possibility up again just because you had gay marriage or polygamy.
Of course not.
Right? It's already illegal. So
conservatives, of course, would say, well, if you open up the doors to marrying gay people and having multiple wives, then you have to.
Bigamy? I'm not sure about that one. I think I can understand why, even from a completely, what do you call it? Not sectarian, outside, not church-related.
Secular?
Secular, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. From a completely secular perspective, my secular perspective on marriage, right? Yeah. Can't see the point of bigamy. Because that seems like, if you're forming this group of people to be, partners, why do I guess I don't really see the problem with it. As long as there's no lying.
As long as it's consensual for all people involved. Because if you're a woman who's married a guy thinking that he's going to be the only one, you're going to be the only one he's married. Right. And then you find out one day, guess what, honey? Right. I went to Las Vegas this weekend and married a showgirl.
But then that's the problem with it, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that you had an agreement with your first partner. Right. And you went and broke it. But if your agreement with your first partner says, sure, what the hell, go ahead, get married a second time if you find somebody else.
Yeah.
And be married to both.
But they can't.
If people want to agree to that, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, and if they can prove it. I guess what I would envision is that at the marriage ceremony, you have to have all the people in this relationship present.
So?
And then you have to go around and say, do you take him? Yes. Do you take her? Yes. Do you take her? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you take him? Yes.
Which would be fascinating.
Does he take you? Does she take you? Does she take you? Does he take you?
Wait, I take all of them, but not her. But not him. That's the best man. Oh, okay, we're not taking him. Fascinating.
Wait, and while we're at it, I'm going to take that guy over there.
I guess in theory, I don't even see why it would have to be all at once, right? If 2 people get married, and then their agreement when they get married is, yes, we're partners. Doesn't stop us from also being partners with other people.
But then I don't understand the point of getting married in the first place.
I agree, it makes it great.
Because if it's just like, we're going to be in a relationship together, but meanwhile you can be in a relationship with whoever else you want.
Since when is marriage supposed to make sense, or about making sense, right? And this gets back to that question of, should the state be the ones to decide whether you know what you're doing or not? Apart from general decisions like, age of consent and stuff, right? Should they be the ones looking over your shoulder saying, okay, tell us exactly why you're getting married? No, not good enough. You can't. Same-sex marriage, we covered that. Adult incest. That's an extremely creepy one.
Yeah.
We're going to give that a pass on the show, folks. I'm just too scared.
I don't even want to talk about that right now.
Prostitution.
Now, if only you could be here in the studio and see that look as between me and Russell. And then we both turned our heads away and let's not talk about that issue.
Well, let's talk about adulthood.
No, shut up.
Okay. Prostitution. I personally think it should be legal.
Sure.
Should be legal.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
You're worried about people getting taken advantage of.
Well,
like there's a bustling
I'm worried
sex
about
trade in other countries.
Yeah.
I mean, no. I don't know how you can say this so well, but I'm worried about the spread of disease.
Yeah. In states.
I mean, if you're marrying a
legal,
guy.
in states where it's legal, which is Nevada, right? Because it's legal, they have further laws monitoring it, requiring medical checkups and making sure that it's safe.
Like the prostitutes?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And they can't do that except that they have made it legal.
And they'd have to have all the records of all the guys that have been their customers.
They may do that.
In my opinion.
That I don't know.
Let's say I was the innocent bystander who fell in love with a guy who just happened to have slept with a prostitute at some point during his life.
Yeah.
He could have any number of diseases. I suppose I could just go ahead and ease that up by getting him checked before I decide to marry and sleep with him or whatever. Yeah. But I mean,
oh man,
we don't know who
there's a creationist in the chat room.
They're
not listening to a word that we say anymore.
Oh man.
Then
come on, guys, we're talking about good stuff
I don't
here.
know.
What's his name?
God Flawless Design.
God Flawless Design.
Oh,
dude, if you can hear us, please say hello, non-profits, and we'll have a little talk.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
So, but okay, that's your scenario. Yeah. But suppose you meet a guy, you like him, and he just happens to have had sex, a couple of years ago with some other girl that he was dating, and she had a disease.
Chances are he'll be more easily able to track her down and find out who, because he knows her name and her parents and her address or whatever.
Again, when prostitution is legal, then it's handled like a business. I mean, you can't be secretly doing stuff.
Well, okay, are we talking about prostitution within a house with lots of regulations, or are we talking about those people on the street that go by the name of Candy and they don't actually have a home address?
The reason why those people operate that way is largely because that's the way they have to operate to avoid the authorities.
Okay.
Right. So that problem gets a lot less, in theory. So anyway, that's prostitution. I guess do you still have a thumb down on that? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's.
I guess.
I remember.
I guess conditionally, I could see prostitution being legal if there's lots of government regulations.
I saw a documentary about the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands they have legalized prostitution.
Okay.
It's extremely unpleasant. Okay? I mean, it just looked incredibly creepy. But at the same time, I knew, watching this, that it's not any visually creepier than prostitution, on a street corner here in the U.S. without government control. But they showed how there was clinics and doctors and regular checkups and records kept and all this stuff.
Fascinating.
So,
business you could go into. You could get a college degree in effective prostitution.
Well, adultery.
Just watch the movie Dangerous Beauty, and they go over all that.
Adultery, as far as I'm concerned, what? Let's move on to the next one. We'll never get through this laundry list. Adultery, for me, same problem as bigamy, right?
Yeah.
If that is a violation of your agreement with your partner, then it's bad for that reason. Not because it's any of the government's frickin' business. Not because some big invisible man in the sky said you shouldn't. But because you made a deal with other human being, and if you go out breaking it, well, that's a bad thing. Fornication? Isn't fornication just sex? Scalia's worried that
No. Fornication, I think a legal definition of fornication is basically the same as adultery.
Is it?
I think
fornication is just the act.
When somebody gets in trouble for fornication, I think that means they had sex without being married.
I guarantee you, Keryn, if you type that word into a search engine, you're going to get lots of
secondary definitions.
You're going to find a lot
having sex without marriage
of naughty picture sites.
Oh no. Go to dictionary.com first.
That's
all right.
what I'm doing. I'm not just typing it in.
Because I've done that. Bestiality? In what sense, other than the most insulting sense you can possibly imagine, is legalizing gay sex a step toward legalizing sex with animals? I don't get it.
Are they saying that? Are they saying
this is Justice Scalia's laundry list of things he thought would become legal if we legalized gay sex.
Now, wait a minute. Adultery is legal. And so is fornication.
Yes.
I mean, even under the definition that fornication is having sex with someone you're not married to.
Yes.
They are legal.
Yeah.
There are no laws.
No, I don't know
that
there's no laws.
that.
I don't know that there's no laws. I think there are probably states where there's laws.
Okay.
But bestiality, how does one lead to the other? Now, apart from, I mean, the only way I can imagine that you could leap to that conclusion is if you think, well, we got some standards about how it's okay to have sex, and if we don't have this particular one, then we have no standards at all, and it's anything goes.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing they say about the morals issue.
That is exactly the same thing about the morals issues.
The only reason we have morals is because God tells us we have to. So the only reason we don't have sex with horses is because it's against the law. Yuck.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I mean, yeah, exactly. I
was right.
What?
What does it mean?
Fornication, sexual intercourse between partners who are not married to each other.
Okay, but as you said, it's generally considered not a crime already. Same thing with adultery. Not considered a crime usually in most cases.
Right.
Bestiality, yeah.
Unless there's minors involved. But, hey.
What?
Yeah, I meant between consenting adults.
Right.
Bestiality, by definition, not between consenting adults.
Yeah.
And obscenity. There's already rules about obscenity, and they're mostly pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But they already exist, and saying that it's okay for two guys in the privacy of one of their homes or a motel room or whatever, right, to have sex does not touch on the obscenity issue. They weren't taking pictures of it and putting them on the internet. And it would be just as it would raise the
all you have to do for that is just watch Queer as Folk.
I guess.
Wait, what is the definition of obscenity?
No, my point is, it is in fact just as illegal in the sense that pornography is illegal at all, right? The content of the pornography is not that big of an issue. So whether it's a man and a woman or two men is not really that relevant. But he thinks that somehow if we can't lock guys up for having sex with each other, then
wait a second.
Then we can't have rules against obscenity.
Obscenity was just like cussing.
No, and obscenity laws are like anything naughty or
anything
sex
naughty
related that is
everything naughty and sex related is against the law.
It is. There are laws. I think. God, I'm not going to try to say this off the top of my head. There is a current, generally accepted standard that I think is silly, but I can't remember it word for word, and I don't want to go down that path right now. Anywho. Alrighty. So, anyway, the story goes on that the Mormons used to be polygamists. I think that's all entirely irrelevant.
Indecency or lewdness. Wow, that's just open to so much interpretation.
This is not a case that people can sniff at, said Richard G. Wilkins, a law professor at Brigham Young University. If you can't require monogamy, how in the world can you deny the claims of the polygamists, particularly when it's buttressed by the claim of religion? See, that's where they're using the religion card to make their case stronger, but I don't see how it really is a religion issue. Others say Barnard will have a hard time taking the court's reasoning from the bedroom and applying it to marriage. The Lawrence case involved private behavior. 2 gay men were arrested after police entered their apartment and found them having sex. It's possible to take the concept of private and intimate relationships and extend it to marriages, but we're not there yet, said Wayne McCormick, a law professor of the University of Utah. The state could try to justify the ban on polygamy by citing the messiness of configuring property rights and benefits between multiple spouses, Cormack said. I've heard this argument before, too.
That's
right?
interesting.
We've got to limit the kinds of marital relationships that there are so that there won't be, so that the current paperwork systems will function. No, I don't think that 2 gay guys or, 3 guys and a girl or 3 girls and 2 guys or any other combination of adults ought to be prohibited from being married just so that the current paperwork doesn't get thrown into a frenzy. That's not their problem.
Well, there's any number of laws that say
that's like saying
about
we should
next of
still
kin
have
type thing.
slavery because otherwise we'd have to register all those slaves as citizens.
Oh my God!
Oh, think of all the paperwork.
Oh, there's 2 creationists in the chat room.
Are there? What's the other one's name?
Jesus loves me.
And did the other one respond to us yet?
No.
Not listening?
Anyway.
All right. No cookie for him.
People.
I
don't see how we would have a dialogue.
I would think that the easiest thing would just be to say, okay, when you add another person in your marriage, you have to update all of your paperwork. Yeah, you have to have a will.
I think that the people in their relationship should be responsible for doing what paperwork
because
takes.
For couples that don't have paperwork, you assume that the spouse is the first next of kin.
Yeah. So anyway, Danny Dyer, executive director of the ACLU of Utah, which is not a party to the case, said the state will have to step up to prove that a polygamous relationship is detrimental to society. There is no denying that thousands and thousands are doing that in Utah and will maintain that it's healthy, she said. The model of the nuclear family as we know it in the immediate past is unique and may not necessarily be the best model. Maybe it's time to have this discussion. Well, I tend to agree. Do you have another story?
We've got, 15 minutes left. Do you still want to stick with marriage-only stories?
Yes. We don't have to. Okay. Well, my story...
Now, let's keep going.
My story, I have 2 articles of the same story. One of them was from gay.com, which is not necessarily a credible news site. It's like a national gay organization that has a website.
All right.
It's like where you go for all that kind of information. But they reference the Denver Post, so I found kind of the same information on the Denver Post. But when I read it farther, it's not really about gay marriage issues. It's about faith-based funding.
Of
so much.
Guys that are...
Mostly, it's about the Focus on the Family group. Talking about, which is one of the nation's largest Christian ministries, and it's about that Christian, faith-based agencies don't necessarily want to accept federal money because it comes with strings attached. You can't be faith-based anymore if you accept faith-based funding. Somehow.
No, I understand that because they say the federal funding comes with strings like you can't be discriminatory in your hiring practices.
Yes.
So
and they
you can say
one of their
that
quotes.
Gay people are evil and deserve to burn in hell and Jesus hates them, but they couldn't not hire a qualified gay person that came to be, came trying to get a job as a secretary. Right?
And they say...
Or high-level administrator, if they really were interested in being that in a company, in an organization that said that they were evil and Jesus hates them and they deserve to burn in hell forever.
Yeah.
But that argument is ridiculous. Ridiculous. We opened this can of worms when we started making exceptions to laws for religion. Like, the earliest one I can remember is religious use of marijuana for what are those guys? The Rastafarians.
Okay.
Right. As I understand it, There are religious groups that have a special dispensation from the government. You can use marijuana in your religious ceremonies, even though we call it illegal in general, because you're a religion, and to deny you that would be stepping on your religious rights. Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry. I don't think any law, entirely apart from the issue of whether various substances ought to be decriminalized, which is a separate issue. If something is a crime, I don't think that saying you want to break the crime for religious reasons is a valid
Absolutely.
argument.
That's like saying murder should be okay because God told Abraham.
We in our satanic rituals, we need to sacrifice somebody, and for you to deny us that, here we have a volunteer, right? For you to deny us this freedom is stepping on our religious rights. Bullshit.
But you know what?
Bullshit.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
special compensation for religion. They can believe whatever old crap they want, but if they want to do something that is against the laws of the land, it should be illegal.
Ooh, that leads into one I've got.
Yes, Russell.
In Spain, a Spanish court sentenced an imam to 15 months in prison for writing a book instructing husbands how to beat their wives without leaving bruises. A lawyer for the Egyptian-born imam, Mohammed Kamal Mustafa, 44, vowed to appeal, telling state radio the ruling was unjust. The Barcelona court found Mustafa guilty of provoking violence on the basis of gender in his book Women in Islam, published in 2000. The book recommends that in the case of a rebellious woman, a husband should attempt serene dialogue, and if that fails, refuse to sleep in the same bed. If rebellion persists, the woman should be struck in a symbolic way and without excesses, the court order cited the book as saying. If one needs to use blows, they should be administered to specific parts of the body like the hands and feet, using a light and thin stick so it will not leave scars or bruising on the body, read an excerpt from the book quoted in the ruling.
Right. And this is a free speech issue.
It is a free speech issue because, while I think that anyone who would beat his wife is a disgusting human being and should be thrown in jail for doing that, writing a book about beating your wife should not be illegal.
I agree.
Okay.
You should be watching my face as I heard that whole story.
Yes, that was quite a...
No.
Many rearranged emotions.
I so want to jump in and say, yes, I completely agree with you from beginning to end. And yet, I gotta be honest and tell you that every time I hear about some country, like there was a story from Ireland, I think, recently, about a pamphlet circulated by the Catholic Church that said things, I think it talked about the evils of homosexuality and what God was going to do to homosexuals, if I recall correctly. And the local government said, look, you better stop circulating this pamphlet because it looks to us like this is an incitement to violence and hatred, and we have laws against inciting violence and hatred.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know.
Wait, we do have laws against inciting violence?
In Ireland.
Oh, in Ireland, yeah.
Right. I really love it every time they get swatted down like that. But, gritting my teeth, I don't know.
Free speech. It comes up with whole kinds of issues like knowledge is power. If you know how to do it, you might do it. But I don't think he should have...
Yeah, the thing is, it's a real gray area when you're writing something that encourages people to break the law. Like, for instance,
it's like saying there
are those people who simply refuse to pay their taxes, believing that they don't have to. And a case came up where a guy was in court, and he blamed it on the guy who wrote the book, saying you don't have to pay any taxes if you don't want to. And that guy said, don't be an idiot. I didn't make him not pay his taxes. I just wrote about it.
And how did that come out?
I don't remember.
What about there was a case recently about a website that listed information on people, on abortion doctors.
Yeah.
Right? What was that? Do you remember the details of that?
I don't know, but that's
was
scary.
Was it the abortion doctors that sued the website?
I don't know.
See, we're not going to be able to provide any useful commentary on this because we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Well, I mean, what kind of information on abortion doctors?
Like names and addresses.
Well, I mean, that's an issue of privacy acts, privacy laws. I mean, you're invading this person's personal privacy.
But as I recall, the case that came up was not about privacy; it was about threat, implied threat. This was a one of those. Well, it was an anti-abortion site, and the implied assumption was this information is being posted so that people who dislike abortion could do bad things to these doctors, could find these doctors and do bad things to them.
It depends on what you're arguing. In my opinion, if it's about threat, then it's an issue of freedom of speech. They should be allowed to post whatever they want, saying whoever is threatening. If it's about posting their names, phone numbers, addresses, and personal information, then it's a privacy issue. If I don't want...
There are already laws on the books against threat. You can't just go around threatening people. That is itself a crime. It's not... It's if it should be...
abortion doctors don't go out and actively try and give people abortions. You're pregnant, I'm going to give you an abortion. That's not a threat.
No. The website was threatening the abortion doctors.
Oh, it was threatening the abortion doctors.
By posting personal information about them for use by people who don't like abortion doctors. See, that's the threat.
Right.
If you keep doing the abortions, then somebody that doesn't like abortion is going to come do something bad to you, and they'll be able to find you because we put your name and address here.
We do have another story about that.
Do we?
I don't know that we have time for it, but yes, we do.
Let's do a quick...
Real quick, it is a
creepy guy.
Christian terrorist. Yes, very scary looking on the website. An anti-abortion activist calling for a new wave of violence against clinics and doctors, this is from January 2nd, is following the example of violent Islamic fundamentalists, telling those who share his views to become Christian terrorists and promising them a reward in heaven.
Oh, good grief.
As cream rising to the top of the milk, so the Christian terrorist rises above the huddled masses of churchgoers and the many voices which denounce their violent attempts to defend the innocent from their murderous assailants, Chuck Spingola wrote in a posting on the Army of God website. Regarding abortion, the separation is clear. The Christian terrorist has the word of God and a testimony of loving, albeit terrifying, to the wicked actions, he said.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what Bush's reaction to that would be, based on the fact that Bush is both very, very, very religious rights activist, and that Bush has a war on terrorism.
Terrorism, yes. I don't see
conflict of issues right there.
I see something in that story. It says mainstream anti-abortion groups, such as the National Right to Life Committee, have praised the arrests of Christian terrorists and convictions of people involved in violence against abortion providers, and released a statement that the group strongly opposes any use of violence as a means of stopping the violence that has killed more than 43 million unborn children since 1973. Blah, 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 blah. Well, we can say we think they're just saying it for PR, but they're saying it.
Yeah.
I would rather they said that than that they came and said, be cream rising to the top of the milk and go kill the abortion doctors.
Yeah.
Right? This article goes on to say that terrorism watchers don't think much of anything is going to come from this. I don't know why how they think that they can draw that conclusion. I've read the article, and there's no real justification for it other than that, well, it's never happened yet so far with these particular people in our particular country. But clearly, it's possible to use religion to motivate folks to do this kind of stuff.
It happens every day. That's why we have this radio show.
The best way to allow it to continue to... the best way to stand back and let it happen is to stand back and let it happen. Mm-hmm. But it's not clear how to stop it either, other than to just speak out. So, thanks everybody for listening to our show.
Thank you to the 24 people in the chat room today.
Including the two fundamentalist creationist guys that
weren't
paying any attention to us, but
diverting attention
thank
from
you
the
too.
show.
I hope somebody in the chat room will point out to them that there's audio shows here that they can listen to. Maybe next episode we'll go over the amicus brief that the Atheist Community of Austin, among others, is sending to the Supreme Court to support Michael Newdow's case against Under God and the Pledge of Allegiance. I have that here, but we're out of time. Thanks again. We will see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me as a host.
You're welcome.